Welcome back to Small Caps, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kerry Stevenson, and finally, I've managed to snag him, whatever you want to call it, Dale Ginn. He is the managing director of Aston Minerals. For those of you that don't know, they're up in Canada, gold, nickel. I'm so excited to talk to Dale because they have been a little bit quiet on telling us what's going on, but I think there's some excitement building around the story. So the ASX code is ASO. Dale Ginn, welcome to Small Caps. Great to see you over there in Canada.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be talking to you finally.
Yeah, me too, because you've been busy out on the rigs and doing all the work. So before we get stuck into what you have been doing, give us a brief overview of who are Aston Minerals. It's been a while since we chatted.
Sure. Well, Aston is, we're a nickel primarily focused on a new nickel discovery now. It looks to be very, very large, one of the largest likely in the world. And we began as a gold explorer. We had a good sized gold deposit called Edleston. But as the exploration on that progressed, it led us into nickel geology, which then led us into a nickel discovery. So basically you have a very tight group of people that found and added to a gold deposit, and it morphed into a new nickel deposit. This all happened within the last year and a half.
Yeah, it's been pretty quick. I want to get on. Excuse me. It's early in the morning down here. I want to get onto the nickel deposit, but let's start with gold. I love gold. Sure. The Edleston gold deposit. Are you still focused on that? Because I've just picked up what you said a moment ago, which is this could be the largest nickel deposit in the world. Now, that's piqued my interest quite a lot, but does that mean that the gold, you're not interested in the gold anymore? What are you doing?
No, it basically means the original reason for us to explore this ground was that we sat on a trend. It's called the Kirkland-Larder Fault Zone in the Abitibi rocks of Canada. So these are famous. This is like 60 plus million ounces produced on this trend. We were on the western side of this trend, and 10 years ago I found a gold deposit there, and it's called Edleston. And it just so happened I managed to get the property back and bring it to our Aston Minerals group. And at the time, the Australians were quite interested in our Canadian gold properties, right?
Yeah.
And so we began the work there, and it led us into nickel mineralization. So kind of hints of nickel within our gold trend. And then we had to trace it, kind of trace it, back to where the nickel should be. And that's where we found the nickel deposit. So we're not, the nickel, has taken over because the sheer size of this thing and the nickel market itself. The gold is still quite important. I think, we have a sizable gold deposit at surface with a 10-kilometer trend that we have yet to explore on the property. So, they're important for different reasons, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand that. So we'll get on to the nickel in a minute. Talk to me about the Edleston gold deposit. What are you doing with it at the moment? Is the focus on nickel, or are you still working on the gold deposit? And will you spin it out? What's the focus?
Yeah, there's a lot of options with that regard, but our focus right now is doing the resource calculation on the actual gold deposit. So this is a large, kind of 1 kilometer by 300 meters wide, 1 gram, maybe a little more, at surface. And that's an attractive deposit for anybody. It's full road access year round, power, people. It's near the town of Timmins, which is a big famous mining town. So, it's a very attractive deposit, but even more attractive to me, I guess, as an explorer is the 10 kilometers of the fault trend we own. You could say it's similar to like a De Grey mining over there, where you've got those long fault zones and you get these multi-million ounce deposits on kind of structural folds and whatnot along those trends. And that's what we have here. So it's very important. It's just, we've been blessed, I guess, with both nickel geology and gold geology on the same property.
Yeah, I know. Is that common or uncommon? I'm not a geologist, Dale, so I don't know. And I'm sure our audience out there are going, is it common to get the gold?
I mean, it's not super uncommon. It's common in Western Australia. You have nickel and gold camps right next to each other. We have it here. The whole Abitibi Precambrian shield is full of copper deposits, nickel deposits, gold deposits that are very close to each other. So it's not uncommon, really.
Okay. So there's some big deposits around you. Are you going to develop it, or are you going to keep exploring? I'm talking to you towards the end of 2022. What are your plans for the gold deposit coming into 23?
So the gold deposit, we'll have our first maiden, if you want, resource put out on it in December.
Okay.
And, so that's only a few weeks away. So I gave you the dimensions, when I was speaking earlier. So it's not overly complex to figure out how big it could be. It's going to be large enough that it could support its own infrastructure and its own company, if you will. And so we don't know exactly what we're going to do, but there is a lot of options when it comes to separating the gold from the nickel, because it's likely if a major were to come in, looking at the nickel deposit, they wouldn't be that interested in the gold. So we may be able to split it off and continue to explore it, either as Aston or another entity possibly. But we have full control on what happens. So there's a lot of options. They wouldn't necessarily be developed together. They could be, but most large companies are one or the other, right?
Yeah. And I think especially when it comes to nickel, and I'm pretty keen to hear about this nickel deposit, which you say, in your view, could be the largest nickel deposit in the world. You haven't been at it for that long, so how can you make that sort of a claim this early in the piece?
I should say one of the largest. I better not say the largest. It's happened quickly for sure. I mean, it's less than a year. But what we have is the proper geology. We've got the dimensions. It starts at surface. We've now drilled a deposit on a nice, evenly spaced, drilling pattern over 2 kilometers long. It ranges from 100 to 300 meters wide or more, depending on grade. And we've drilled it down as deep as 750 meters. So it doesn't take much to add up what that could be. And so, yeah, that's why I say it's one of the largest new nickel finds probably in the world. The other important feature is that it's completely sulfide hosted nickel. So there are no silicate hosted nickel, which is hard to recover, and there's no alloys, no funny alloys, iron alloys that make it hard to recover. We have a sulfide hosted nickel deposit near surface, 2 kilometers long, and we've drilled it for the past 8 months with 3 or 4 drills at a time. And now we're ready to put the first maiden resource out on it. That's all happened within the last 9 months.
How come you guys have got on with it? Because, I talk to a lot of people, and sometimes these deposits take years and years and years. How come you guys have just gone, bang, let's get to work? Have you had the money to get more drill rigs in, or it just seems very, very quick that you've been able to work out quite how big this deposit is?
Well, we did raise in the spring close to 29 million, I believe. And with that, like we'd already started because we were cashed up before that. So we raised the 29 and then we brought in additional drills, and it's a simple style deposit. So it was relatively simple. I mean, in our world, because we're used to complex gold deposits, this is relatively simple, large unit that we just space our drills and drill it from each side of the unit. And permitting is quick here. You know, it's fairly straightforward. The access is like a all-weather road straight from Timmins, 60 kilometers south of Timmins. So access is good. Our relationship with the First Nations in the area is excellent. I've been dealing with the same people for the last 10 years. And there's just no hurdles, you know, aside from the ground, the drilling itself. And this is what we're good at, being efficient. You know, I've done projects up to 13 drills large, and I'm used to this sort of thing. And I think it's the way you go. You gotta, you know, if it's there, you gotta pound it hard, and that's what we did.
You've been around in this industry for a while. Are you excited about this deposit? Because I don't think the market, well, do I dare say that, I'm not sure they believe what you've got your hands on, because you've got a market cap of, what, 80 mil, plenty of cash in the bank.
Well,
do you reckon it's just, I know you haven't been out there talking about it. I want to know why you haven't been talking about it. You've been a bit quiet lately. Are you excited about it now?
Look, these are once in a lifetime finds, right? It's big. It's in the right space. Like everyone's talking about how short, you know, the nickel is going to be and battery metals, and where's it all going to come from? Well, you want it from politically safe jurisdictions. You want it from mining friendly places. It's probably too fast, too big, too soon to believe right away. It takes time, right, for people to add it up. And I think our resource calculation here will go a long way to proving that, number one. Number two, it gets confused. Like there's a few nickel deposits around that are quite large, but their metallurgy is difficult.
Right.
And people assume we're the same thing. But clearly we're not. We've done, right off the bat, we did a bunch of metallurgical work. We showed it's sulfide hosted, it's pentlandite, it's millerite, it's the high tenor sulfide. So these are the good ones. And our recoveries are already kind of 65+%. This is first pass. Like that's without any fine tuning. And our concentrates that we produce are in the 12 to 20% range. And basically what that means is we can send our concentrate to any smelter in the world and it'll fit in there nicely. There's no problems with it. There's no new technologies or anything that's required for this stuff. And so that's our edge, and it takes time for people to figure all this out. I mean, it has been only less than a year, right? So
yeah. Well, I guess I go back to my thoughts, and maybe this is the thoughts of the market as well, is, you know, how early on did you realize that you knew it wasn't in silicates or alloys? Because of course that makes it much more difficult, and it's a difficult processing. But you're saying this is a nickel sulfate deposit. It's got no silicates, no alloys, so it's going to be simpler and easier to extract the nickel. So how early, and how did you know that it wasn't in silicates? Because I know I want to know why that's important and how you knew.
You can see the sulfides for one thing. Now, then the question is how much of the nickel is in those sulfides and how much might be trapped in the other parts. So you can see that we have the pentlandite, the millerite, the violarite. There's some high tenor nickels in there. Now then the testing comes in, and we sent ours to the best possible lab that there is. I mean, basically, it's a division of Glencore. It's called XPS Labs.
Okay.
But of Sudbury, where most of Canada's nickel is produced. So they know their stuff. And they came back and said, yeah, this first coarse grind, like, preliminary testing says 65 to 70% recoveries. And we've tested a very variable grades as well, from 0.3% nickel to 0.5%. So we've tested a variety. And where you have the proper sulfides, where basically within our deposit, you have good recoveries. And it's really that simple, but it's kind of hard to believe right away, because a lot of these deposits are locked up in the alloys and the silicates, like I said.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's what's happening at the moment. But talk about the resources. I know that you've got a resource. Is it an initial resource coming out in December?
Correct. Yeah, there's the maiden resource, the first JORC resource calculations coming out in December. It'll encompass effectively 2 kilometers, say 100 to 200 meters wide average, down to about 500 meters. That's the volume of this thing, and the grades are kind of in the 0.3 to 0.4 range, plus some cobalt. And the cobalt it recovers with the nickel, so there's a boost.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So let's do, I want to go back, because it's very timely me chatting to you today, because the BHP Oz Minerals takeover is on the cards at the moment. They were very keen on the West Musgrave deposit, and that was about 390 million, 400 tons at, I think, 0.4% nickel equivalent. Yes. So, and that's a big number. And I'm sitting here looking at Aston Minerals going 80 million market cap, similar size deposit. Could we say that? Or is it a bit too early?
No, I think we could say that.
Wow.
And grade.
Yeah. And grade. Similar size.
And not as remote. It's not as remote as West Musgrave. We're full on road access year round, 60 kilometers out of a major mining center. We're 2-hour drive to Sudbury, where the big smelters are, and they're underutilized.
Really?
So
okay.
You couldn't be in a better place.
So why hasn't the market regulated? Do you think you've just gone at this so fast that there's a disbelief?
Yeah, partly. I mean, the market's faded somewhat, and you got to get over that. But there is a skepticism, and that's fine. There's always going to be that wall of skepticism. We've come a long way very quickly. We got to prove ourselves. I mean, that's what we're doing.
All right.
I just think, 9 months from where we made the first discovery, where we didn't really know what we had, and to where we are now, we're actually producing a resource is ridiculously quick, right? I think it's really good, but the market has to catch up to that. Like, lots happened in a short period of time. Plus, we switched from a gold company to a nickel company, so we had to kind of get over that too. Yeah.
So what are the plans going forward? To me, I mean, how do you protect the asset from the werewolves coming in and trying to grab it from you?
Well, the biggest and best protection is our shareholder base, which is effectively Tolga and some very a lot of insiders and some funds that recently came in that are quite well known, like Franklin Templeton. So
okay,
these are serious funds and a very serious insider holding that effectively protects us from anything that could be hostile. I mean, I'm sure that, yeah, and we know we're attracting attention from those in the know. It's sometimes it's a dance, right? You got to do the dance, and yeah, we're happy. We got our dancing shoes on, I guess you could say.
You got your dancing shoes on. I think it's a really, really exciting project, and which is why I was keen to have you come on. Do you think going forward you'll separate the nickel and the gold out? Because the gold deposit sounds to me like it could be standalone on its own, and clearly the nickel could be.
I think that's the logical route. I mean, I don't know with certainty. It'll depend on how the market reacts to our resources on both counts, on the nickel and the gold, what the market conditions are going forward. But yeah, I can see them as separate units. You know, and you don't mix nickel and gold in terms of your processing. So yeah, I certainly see them as separate units. There's plenty of other gold mines in the area. There's some big ones being developed, like Cote, which is a 20 million ounce deposit. Young Davidson to the east of us. There's Timmins, which is full of gold mines to the north of us. So plenty of you know, customers, if you will, for gold concentrates. And then with the nickel, it's again, the customers are there for the nickel concentrates within a couple-hour drive.
Now, Dale, I know you're not somebody that gets overexcited about things, but I just want to find out the gold deposit. Yep, it's good. It's interesting. It's you know, it's in of itself a decent deposit. But right at the start of this conversation, you said this could be one of the largest nickel deposits in the world. When you got your hands on this, did you just get a little bit excited?
No, look, we were doing a happy dance when we connected with the first drill hole, and especially when we found out it was really a sulfide related.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important to find it, but it's even more important these days to find out that it's recoverable in a normal sense. So, yeah.
Well, you better come back and chat to me in the new year because we're running out of time.
Okay.
Come and chat to me when that the resource comes out, both on the gold and the nickel, because that's soon. Sounds like Christmas is going to be an interesting time for you. But Dale, let's finish it off. Let's wrap it all up. Give me 3 reasons. People know I like to finish this way. 3 reasons why those people should be sitting up and taking notice of Aston right now.
Well, the obvious one is the nickel deposit. From nothing to an extremely large new sulfide nickel deposit in under a year. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a gold deposit that is flushing out to be a sizable deposit that can stand on its own. So that's number 2. Number 3, I guess, would be our market cap. I mean, 80 million. We're talking billions in the sales of other similar sized deposits, you know, and how rare they are. They're super rare. We're developing one. So it's you know, we have an $80 million company with other similar deposits being taken out for $1 to $2 billion or more. I think
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Do the math, but also do your own research. And if you want to contact Dale, reach out to him. He'd love to answer any questions you've got. The ASX code is ASO. I know they've been flying under the radar. That's why I was excited. They've been out doing the work in the field. Those drill rigs have been going, but now the maiden resource, both on the gold and the nickel, are coming up. So it's a really interesting time. Dale, don't be a stranger. Come back and chat to me very soon.
Anytime. My pleasure. Thank you.